The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and Masha had a big idea. "Let's go on a picnic," she declared. Bear, reading his book, looked up and nodded with a smile. Masha twirled excitedly. Together, they would pack snacks, find a perfect meadow, and enjoy a peaceful forest afternoon. Or so they thought. In Bear's cozy kitchen, Masha filled a picnic basket with sandwiches, fruits, cupcakes, and juice boxes. Bear carefully wrapped everything, but Masha kept sneaking bites. "One for the basket, one for me," she giggled. Bear gave her a playful look, then added his special honey jars. Their basket was bursting with yummy surprises. They strolled through the woods, basket in paw, searching for the perfect spot. Masha rejected shady spots, rocky hills, and even a beautiful stream. "Too dark, too buggy, too loud," she said. Finally, on a grassy hill filled with wildflowers, she clapped. "This is it." Bear laid down the blanket with a satisfied sigh. Masha fluffed the picnic blanket while Bear placed plates and cups neatly. The food looked delicious. Birds chirped above, and butterflies danced in the air. Masha spun in circles, singing a picnic song, while Bear opened a book, ready to relax. The forest was quiet. For now. Masha took a huge bite of her sandwich, sighing with joy. Picnic food tastes better." Bear sipped his tea and nodded. They clinked juice boxes like glasses and began munching, surrounded by sunshine and flowers. Everything seemed perfect, but they weren't alone. A line of ants appeared from the grass, marching straight toward the food. "Eek!" Masha shrieked. The ants climbed onto the basket, heading straight for the honey. Masha waved her arms and danced in circles. Bear calmly moved the honey. The ants weren't angry, just hungry. As Bear swatted gently at the ants, a flock of birds flew overhead. One swooped down and grabbed a cookie. "Hey!" shouted Masha. She waved a napkin at the sky, but more birds circled, eyeing the fruit. Bear tried to guard the basket, but the snack stealing had begun. Masha gasped as a curious raccoon popped out from a bush and made a beeline for the cupcakes. With nimble paws, it grabbed one and stuffed it in its mouth. "No!" cried Masha, chasing after it. The raccoon just blinked, licked frosting off its whiskers, and grabbed another. Bear stood up, towering over the snack thieves. He clapped loudly, trying to scare them off. The birds scattered, and the raccoon paused, but then grinned and took another cupcake. Masha grabbed a spoon and shouted, "It's war!" The animals clearly weren't planning to leave. Masha launched a fruit defense, tossing apples and berries to distract the birds. Bear used a napkin like a flag to wave off the ants. It became a full food frenzy. In all the chaos, their lovely picnic turned into a comedy of flying sandwiches and flapping wings. Grapes rolled across the blanket and juice spilled in puddles. Fruit flies appeared, dancing around Masha's head. "Shoo!" she cried, spinning in circles. Bear tried to catch tumbling apples, but they bounced away. The meadow became a battlefield of snacks. Masha was losing her cool. Two birds grabbed opposite ends of a sandwich and began tugging. Masha lunged to save it, only to trip over the juice box. She landed with a squish. Bear rushed to help, but now the raccoon had taken the whole cupcake tray. "Bear!" she yelled, laughing and fuming all at once. With messy hair and frosting on her cheek, Masha crossed her arms. "Worst picnic ever," she pouted. Bear patted her shoulder gently. The forest animals looked on, blinking. They weren't trying to be mean. They were just hungry. Masha suddenly paused, her eyes lighting up with a new idea. "What if?" Masha whispered. She glanced at the animals, then at the scattered food. "What if we shared?" Bear raised an eyebrow. Masha stood tall on the basket. "Ladies and forest folk, you're invited to join the picnic," she shouted. The crowd went still. Masha and Bear gathered what food was left. Sandwich halves, untouched fruit, slightly squished cupcakes. The ants regrouped, the raccoon sat curiously, and the birds perched nearby. Masha arranged everything in neat rows on the blanket. "Let's make this a real forest party," she said. Masha handed cookies to squirrels and passed berries to the birds. Bear poured tiny cups of honey tea for bees. The ants got a slice of fruit pie. One by one, each animal took a piece and nodded in delight. The picnic wasn't ruined. It was just beginning. With a spoon in hand, Masha banged on a pot and sang. The birds chirped along, the squirrels drummed on nuts, and even the raccoon clapped its paws. Bear played a tune on a wooden flute. The picnic turned into a musical forest jam session. Masha spun across the blanket with a bird on her shoulder and a cupcake in her hand. The animals danced, flapped, and hopped. Even Bear did a little shuffle. The meadow glowed with joy. Masha laughed louder than ever. This wasn't a normal picnic. It was the best ever. After eating, Masha organized games. They played Find the Acorn, Cupcake Catch, and musical logs. The animals ran and laughed with her, while Bear served juice to tired players. The raccoon even let Masha ride on its back like a champion. As the sun dipped lower, Masha led a cleanup mission. The animals helped gather plates, napkins, and food scraps. Ants marched away with crumbs. Everyone sat together on the blanket, watching the sun set over the trees. Masha leaned against Bear and sighed. "Today didn't go as planned, huh?" Bear smiled. But it went just right. The animals cuddled close. It was peaceful, warm, and magical. Masha stood and gave a speech. "Thanks for crashing our picnic." "Really?" she giggled. The animals clapped, chirped, and squeaked. She raised a cookie. To surprise guests, messy moments, and sharing snacks. Everyone cheered with their food in the air. Masha borrowed Bear's camera and took a group photo. Everyone squeezed into the frame. Raccoon, birds, ants, and even a sleepy owl. Masha pressed the button and shouted, "Cheese!" The flash lit up a moment they'd all remember forever. The raccoon shyly gave Masha a tiny leaf-wrapped cupcake. "For me," she gasped. She took a bite and smiled. "Tastes like friendship." Bear chuckled. Masha offered half of it back. The raccoon blinked, then nodded gratefully. Even cupcakes can build friendships. Night fell, and fireflies lit the meadow. The animals danced in slow circles. Masha twirled under the stars while Bear hummed a lullaby on his flute. It was a magical end to a wild day. The meadow glowed like a dream. One by one, the animals waved goodbye. Masha gave each a hug, including the raccoon, who licked her cheek. Bear packed the empty basket. "Next time, fewer cupcakes," he teased. Masha laughed. "Next time, double the cupcakes, and double the fun." Masha rode on Bear's shoulders, tired and happy. They strolled through the moonlit forest, basket swinging gently. Masha yawned, thinking of flying cupcakes and singing ants. "That was a good picnic," she whispered sleepily. Bear nodded, patting her foot softly. Bear tucked Masha into bed. She hugged her stuffed bunny and mumbled, "No ants in my blanket, right?" Bear smiled and shook his head. Outside, the moon shone over the peaceful forest, where even the raccoon was snoring. As Masha dreamed, cookies danced in the sky, raccoons juggled fruit, and Bear flew by on a sandwich-shaped cloud. Her picnic dreams were just as wild as her real picnic day. In sleep, she giggled, kicking her tiny feet. Morning light filled the room. Masha sat up suddenly and shouted, "Next time, let's have a forest potluck." Bear groaned, covering his head with a pillow. But Masha was already sketching plans. One thing was sure, more fun and more picnic trouble was on the way.